Hey y'all, welcome back to Avery's Apron. My name is Avery, and today I'm showing you how I make a classic, delicious red velvet cake. This cake is so moist, so good, and it has cream cheese frosting, and it is absolutely amazing. So we're gonna get right into it, okay? So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and sift my dry ingredients together. I'm using cake flour today. I'm going to be using some salt, baking powder, baking soda, and cocoa powder. I'm putting it all in my sifter, and I'm just going to shake it all together. And yes, we're going to move on to creaming our wet ingredients together. I want to mention also that, as usual, all of my exact ingredients and measurements are down in the description box below, along with recipe notes to help you accomplish this recipe. Now, I might ruffle a few feathers with this next statement, but you're gonna see here that I'm only using about a teaspoon or so of cocoa powder in this recipe. I think it's a common misconception that red velvet cake should taste like chocolate. I don't believe that to be true, okay? I only use just a little bit in my recipe, but if you do prefer it to taste chocolatey, then by all means add more, but in my opinion, it shouldn't taste like chocolate cake. I don't know, that's just me. Alrighty, I've set my dry ingredients to the side, and now I'm going to go ahead and start creaming my butter and sugar together. So I've got 2 sticks of unsalted butter that are room temperature. Going in with my sugar, and then I'm going to just beat this all together for about 3 to 5 minutes until it is nice and light and fluffy, okay? Once you've achieved that, we're going to go ahead and start beating in our eggs one at a time. And here we are 5 minutes later. Our mixture is nice and light, fluffy, amazing, delicious, okay? We're gonna go ahead and scrape down the paddle attachment. We're gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl as well. And then we're gonna go ahead and start beating in our eggs one at a time, okay? This is also the point where you wanna beat in your vanilla as well. I actually forgot until the end, so I ended up mixing it in off camera, but this is the point where you are going to beat in your vanilla. Okay, so we are just mixing the eggs in just until they're combined. We don't have to mix them too much at this point. But once the eggs are well incorporated, I'm going to go ahead and start adding in my dry ingredients. So I'm going in with about a third of the dry ingredients, and I'm going to mix that for a little bit, and then I'm going to add in some of my buttermilk, and I'm just going to alternate between dry ingredients and buttermilk until it's all added, okay? I like to try to keep it at 3 increments so I don't mix too much. So I'm adding in about a third of the flour. I'm going to go in with about half of the buttermilk. I'm going to go in with another third of the flour, the other half of the buttermilk, and then the last third of the flour, okay? Mix just until everything looks nice and well incorporated, nice and fluffy, and then we are going to go ahead and start adding in our food coloring as well as our vinegar. Okay, you want your cake batter to look nice and whipped like mine, and we are going to go ahead and go in with our food coloring. I'm using 2 bottles of these 1-ounce red food colorings, okay? And then I'm also going to go in with a teaspoon of vinegar. Yes, vinegar. Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, all right? It really helps to enhance the red color in your cake. And then it also actually helps with the texture of the cake. So the vinegar combined with the buttermilk and the cocoa powder really give your cake a nice velvety, moist texture. That is why it's called red velvet cake, because of the velvety texture, right? So the vinegar helps to achieve that. But anyways, we are going to go ahead and add in all of those ingredients. I'm going to give it a good mix until the red is nice and incorporated in our cake batter, and then we are going to go ahead and start putting these in the pan to bake. And just to avoid over mixing, I went ahead and stopped the mixer after the red looked nicely distributed through the cake batter, and I'm just going to go ahead and fold the rest of it together with my spatula. So I'm just scraping down the sides and scraping the bottom, making sure all of my batter is nice and red. As you can see down at the bottom, there are still some streaks of white cake batter, so I'm just giving this a nice fold, gently folding it together till everything's well combined. And we are going to go ahead and take this over to our prepared pans, okay? So I've got 3 cake pans here. This is going to be a 3-layer cake. I'm just spraying it down with this Baker's Joy cooking spray. You can, you know, butter and flour your cake pans if you want, but this is just so much easier, I think. So I'm just going to be generous with this spray, and then I'm going to go ahead and just distribute my cake batter between the 3 pans. Get it as even as I can. You can, you know, get measuring cups and try to be precise if you want to. I just kind of eyeballed it, okay? But I'm just going to add the batter to each pan, and then I'm going to spread it around evenly with my spatula. And these are going to go into a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes, okay? You only want to bake them until the edges kind of start to separate from the sides of the pan, and when you stick a toothpick in the center, it comes out clean, okay? So yeah, 25 minutes, 350 degrees, and you will have a super delicious red velvet cake. And here we are after 25 minutes. My beautiful red velvet cake layers. They look fantastic. I allowed them to cool in their cake pans for about 10 minutes. And then after the 10 minutes, I just turned them out of their cake pan to cool on this wire rack. I allowed them to cool on the wire rack for a good 45 minutes to an hour, just to make sure that they were completely cooled, because you don't want them to melt the frosting once you start frosting the cake, okay? So yes, about an hour of cooling on the rack. Now, while they are cooling, I'm going to go ahead and start mixing up my cream cheese frosting, okay? What is red velvet cake without cream cheese frosting? I've seen people try to put buttercream with red velvet, and it's just, I feel like it's just blasphemy, okay? You have to have cream cheese frosting with your red velvet cake. So here, I've got 1 stick of unsalted butter that is room temperature. I also have 1 8-ounce block of cream cheese that is room temperature. I am going to whip those together for a good 3 to 5 minutes or so, and then I'm going to start adding in my powdered sugar 1 cup at a time until it is my desired consistency, okay? Like I said, exact measurements for the frosting are down in the description box below as well. I'm also beating in a little splash of vanilla at this point too, okay? I also thought I'd mention that classic Southern red velvet cake typically has pecans on the cake, or in the frosting anyway. So if you are somebody who likes pecans with your red velvet cake, then you can totally fold in some chopped pecans after you've mixed your frosting together. Just fold in like a cup or so. And yeah, then frost your cake that way, or you can just sprinkle them on the tops or up the sides of your cake after you frosted it, okay? But that's totally an option if you like nuts with your cake. My family prefers red velvet cake without the pecans, so we leave them out. Okay, and as I'm sure you've noticed, after each addition of powdered sugar, I went ahead and scraped down the sides of the bowl with my spatula just to make sure everything was nicely combined. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and scrape off my little whip attachment here. I'm going to set it to the side, and I'm going to scrape down my bowl, give my frosting one last mix, and then I'm going to go ahead and start frosting my cake. Alright, so here I'm just frosting my cake. As you can see, I actually forgot to press the record button for that first layer, so my apologies. But here we are. I just put a layer down, and I put a nice generous amount of frosting in the center of the layer. Then I use my offset spatula to spread the frosting out evenly, and I allowed all the excess frosting to fall off the, the sides and the edges of the cake. And yeah, I just continued until all my layers were stacked, okay? And you just want to make sure that your cake is nice and tall and straight, making sure that the cake is not lopsided. And we're going to continue on with the frosting, okay? So I'm adding a generous amount again to the top of the cake. I'm going to use my offset spatula to spread all of the frosting out evenly, allowing all the excess to kind of fall off the edges of the cake. And then we're gonna go ahead and frost the sides as well. Now I'm like by no means an expert when it comes to frosting cakes, okay? I just do the best that I can. And yeah, that was it. This was a cake that I made for my family, so I think it came out good for what it's worth, right? But anyways, yes, I'm just gonna continue frosting the top and the sides of my cake, and then we'll be back to cut this thing. Right, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, okay? You don't have to go through all that I went through with this cake, but I just wanted to make sure everything was nice and evenly coated, that there were no, bare spots on my cake. I just wanted to make sure it was all nicely coated in frosting. But that is it for this recipe, you guys. I really hope you've enjoyed it. This was one of the desserts we had on Christmas Day. Red velvet cake is actually like one of my absolute favorite cakes. It's so delicious, especially with this wonderful cream cheese frosting. But yes, you guys, here here I am just cutting a slice for my dad. I'm gonna let him give it a try for you guys at the end of this video. But I hope you guys have enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in my next video. Bye! Alright, Dad. Go ahead.
I can eat it now?
Yeah.
Christmas tree. Squeeze 4 to 6 drops of cherry, blueberry, vanilla. Adding more drops of dark and
How is it?
Mixing ingredients.
Good. Enough said.
No said. Alright, bye. Thanks for trying it.
That's good.
Oh, thank you.